Switches into a heavy Spanish accent, the evil Gummy Defense League, spreading misinformation and racism from their headquarters on YouTube. They even have the audacity to accuse innocent YouTubers of things they didn't do. And let's not forget about that disgusting, sexually suggestive video Mrs. Gummy made, just to distract people from her lies. She needs to stop relying on beans on toast for dinner and cheap cider for her husband. In fact, they're so desperate for attention that they would even beg Tommy Robinson to take them in as lodgers. Switches into a heavy French accent. The Gummy Defense League, their lies and racism, spread from the shadows of YouTube. Mrs. Gummy even went as far to make a sexually suggestive video just to distract from their falsehoods. They rely on beans on toast and cheap cider, and their desperate pleas for attention from Tommy Robinson know no bounds. It is truly pathetic. Switches into a heavy German accent. The Gummy Defense League, a group of vile liars and racists, operating from the dark depths of YouTube. Mrs. Gummy, that pathetic creature, made a sexually suggestive video to distract from her deceitfulness. She even relies on basic, cheap meals like beans on toast and cheap cider. And get this, they actually have the audacity to beg Tommy Robinson to take them in as lodgers. How utterly desperate can they be? Switches into an American voice. All right, listen up, folks. There's this pathetic group called the Gummy Defense League. They're a bunch of racist liars who operate out of YouTube. Mrs. Gummy made a nasty video just to distract from her lies, and they rely on cheap meals like beans on toast and cider. Can you believe they even had the balls to beg Tommy Robinson to take them in as lodgers? I swear they've probably raided his fridge and freezer so many times, they've resorted to digging through his garbage cans. Switches into a mocking Spanish accent. Oh, the Gummy Defense League and their pathetic attempts to spread lies and hatred on YouTube. And let's not forget about that disgusting sexually suggestive video Mrs. Gummy made, just to create a distraction and lie about her online enemies. It's all just a sad attempt to get back at others who have dared to call her out on her bullshit. But can we talk about her husband, Hector? Poor guy's stuck eating beans on toast every single night and getting cheap cider while she spends all their money on Aldi crisps and 50p cakes. Continues. But this is their way of life now. Hector, her loyal slave, gets scraps from his mistress as his only treat. They're both so desperate for attention they would even beg Tommy Robinson to let them move in with him. Can they really be so delusional to think he would cook them dinner every night? It's just sad and pathetic. Continues in the same mocking Spanish accent. Hector's life is a never-ending cycle of beans on toast and cheap cider. The poor sucker has no other options. Can you imagine the monotony of eating the same meal every day? And let's not forget about that so-called treat, the occasional cheap cider. Their lives are bleak, boring, and full of desperation. They have nothing else to live for but the fantasy of being taken in by Tommy Robinson as his lodgers. What a pathetic existence. But it's what they deserve for being such miserable liars. Switches into a mocking Spanish accent. Oh, the pathetic scene Tommy Robinson witnessed when he caught Mrs. Gummy and her husband Hector stalking his wheelie bins and begging for the fridge contents. They're like desperate scavengers, constantly trying to get something for free. I bet they even keep a little diary, noting down every time they've tried this pathetic tactic. Tommy Robinson must have been completely appalled by their behavior. Who in their right mind goes through someone else's trash? It was a moment of absolute desperation and shame for them both. Switches into a mocking Spanish accent. Well, Tommy Robinson was furious when he caught Mrs. Gummy and her husband Hector rooting through his bins and trying to weasel their way into his apartment as lodgers. Can you imagine the audacity of those two? They were completely out of line. So Tommy Robinson decided to take matters into his own hands. He made them both do his laundry, wash his dishes, and clean his entire apartment from top to bottom. And just to rub salt in the wound, he made them pay for the supplies out of their own pocket. They got what they deserved. Switches into a mocking Spanish accent. Oh, those fools probably have a long list of previous convictions for their bin-stalking antics. They're like vultures, always trying to find something to scavenge. But let's not forget about the law. There's the Preservation of Wheelie Bin Act of 1908, clause consumption of harmful substances and foods, and public substance versus trespassing leftovers. And let's face it, they're violating all of them every time they go through those bins.